something important that you said before we went on break is how you envision this project to be a project that actually has tangible, practical benefits for the people that we are targeting the book towards, where this just doesn't become one of those, what's the next capitalistic venture for you to make money? Because as someone who is from within the media industry, who has studied the media industry, I do understand, Uncle, most of the time that when people actually go on projects, venture on projects of this nature, there oftentimes is some sort of capitalistic undertone,
Yeah,
some sort of goal towards profit making, because it's all about the bottom line.
sure.
But, and I think for me personally, just attaching my name to a project of this nature, for me, I think when the excitement came for me from the idea that this can actually be way more than a capitalistic venture. Actually, that should be the last thing,
Yeah.
that the last idea around the book. For me, it was reaching out and becoming accessible. And we do know access sometimes has so many hurdles, especially financially as well. How do we then go about, practically speaking, to make this project accessible to the right stakeholders, the people that need to read it and may not be able to afford it, for instance?
Yeah.
What's the greater goal with this project?
I'm glad you're asking the question, and I'm answering the question firstly because I'm hoping that it demonstrates the teamwork that goes into this effort. There's a lot of deliberations we have in the background about how to make it practical, tangible, and create value at the right levels without exploitation and without turning it into a capitalistic project. So thank you for the question. Here it is. Very practically, this is how the rollout of this book works. Number one, we are targeting all the schools in Koffiefontein Intermediate, Leretlabetse Primary, Reikailetse Secondary, and Koffiefontein High School. Why are we doing that? We are looking at the numbers. We're looking at about 2,500, 3,000 learners we want to reach. In fact, we want to put a book into the hand of every learner. And then beyond the learning, the population at school, we want to see how we can reach the broader youth of Koffiefontein by putting a book into the hand of every one of them. We are keenly aware of the fact that one of the hurdles is affordability. I'm aware we're talking 150 Rand per printed copy, but there's somebody who's struggling to get 12 Rands to get a loaf of bread in Koffiefontein as we speak. And we want to make it possible for such a person also to have access to this book. So we want to roll it out to as many youngsters as we can possibly reach. How do we make it sustainable? Is we are in the process of setting up a KC trust, so a Koffiefontein Chronicles Trust. The trustees of the trust basically would be represented or would be representing Koffiefontein, the high school, Koffiefontein, the intermediate school, the primary school, Leretlabetse, as well as Reikailetse Secondary School, myself, yourself, and other books that will be produced hereafter from Sons of Koffiefontein. Such people's stories who will be told will also be represented on the trust. And the sole responsibility of this trust would be to represent the interest of these schools, so that the revenue that is generated through the sales of the book goes towards helping youngsters in Koffiefontein, like Dr. Simphiwe, get to that dream that they so desperately want to achieve. How the trust will be set up, 20% of the revenue will obviously go back to you, so as to say thank you as a community for allowing us to actually use your story to inspire others. Another 20% is reinvestment into the project, because there are other Simphiwes whose stories we so desperately need to tell. And so already we are setting a budget up front to help make that a reality. That's where the other 20% of this goes to. Towards 20%, which takes us to the 60 mark, goes to Golden Mile. Golden Mile is that engine behind the Koffiefontein Chronicles that puts in the work and the tireless effort to make sure that we have initiatives like these and they are successful to this extent, so that there's sustainability and capacity to do more. And then a whole 40% goes right back to educational projects in Koffiefontein. So these schools heads, or whoever represents the schools, will be responsible to make sure that the 40% addresses the interest of the schools. And this can be in the form of bursaries towards students on an annual basis. It could be towards the upgrade of infrastructure, educational infrastructure, be it a science laboratory or a computer lab or whatever educational needs there are. That 40% will be aiming at addressing those particular needs. So this is how it is set up, and this is why it is way, way beyond the margins of commercialization or capitalization. It really is changing a narrative and unlocking potential and doing so sustainably. And that is how, from a practical point of view, this book will impact on the community of Koffiefontein to start with, and to use this community as a case study to address the same in other communities with similar dynamics like Koffiefontein.
My heart smiles. That is clear, and that really for me makes me so happy. Like I said, it's a project that I can now proudly put my name on, knowing the type of influence that we're planning to have with it. So thank you very much for that explanation. And thanks for letting me take over your interview for a little bit there.
No, you're so welcome. You're so welcome.